closely associated with the looping constructs are the jump statements. And you've already seen the return statement at the end of main, and you'll use it in any function when you need to return a value, be it an integer or a string or a class. The return statement does that. The break statement will get you out of a loop immediately when you hit it. The continue statement inside a loop will jump from where you are back to the beginning of the loop and do it again. And then the goto statement used to be you were always cautioned never to use this because when it first came into languages it got abused and turned people's code into spaghetti code. But if you use it safely, you can use it. I'm not going to go over it. I'd never use it. But typically if you're going to use a goto, you always want to just jump in one direction, typically down to the end of the current method where you maybe need to do some cleanup or and then exit. And then there's also an exit keyword, which takes a number and it just immediately quits your program. Typically you don't want to have these in there. They indicate a bad thing. Usually in debugging you want to use an assert statement, which will give you some information about the line and method you were on when the problem happened. But asserts are macros that can get compiled away when you're not in debug mode. So sometimes you will see exit where there's a real bad condition happening and they just want the application to quit immediately. All right, let's go over to Eclipse. And while we're talking about loops, I meant to mention this earlier. Sometimes in embedded programming especially, you might see something like this. Constant bool forever equals true, and then while forever, and then a loop. So when your robot starts up, for instance, as soon as power is applied, you want to go into a main event loop that handles all the input. So this loop is, you're sort of indicating that it never exits. Now you could use that break statement I told you about, but you'd kind of be giving lie to what you're indicating here. When somebody reads this, they're going to assume this code never exits. So if you have code that's going to run, but under some circumstances it might exit, you don't want to use this. You want to say something like, not const, you want to say bool keep looping. Okay, let's say keep looping equals true, and then you want to say while keep looping. So let's do something in here. Let's get some input. We need somewhere to put it first, so let's take our standard string input and let's put this into input, and let's just say if the input and we find the letter Q and this equals 0, meaning it's at the very first position, then that's our terminating condition. Then we want to say keep looping equals false. Okay, and that'll get us out of our loop. Okay, but let's also say that we're doing other things in this while loop, and maybe we're using up resources, and so we don't want it to run too many times. So let's put a counter, and let's initialize our counter to 0. And then down here, let's or even up here, we'll just say ++ counter so that we increment that every time through the loop. And we can even see out our let's see out our input, and then our counter, and then our new line character right here. And then let's get to our break statement now. Let's say, and I put that again in the wrong place. Let's say that if the counter is greater than some max loop, then we want to, I'll put the statements in here, we want to break out of here. Okay, so we can say break. Okay, so this won't just break out of this if, it will actually break out of this while statement as well. Matter of fact, let's do this. Let's just make this some small number so we can test it easily. So let's say int max loop equals 5. Okay, and then let's go ahead and build that, and then let's run. And so George is our first one, Mike, C, D, E, F, if counter G. Oh, okay, our program terminated. I didn't put a message so that we would immediately see that. So let's do that as well. Done. Okay, and then just prove to you, you probably could see that that terminated here, but we'll build and we'll run that again. Okay, so let's just do the letters A, B, C, D, E, F, and then our program ends. Okay, and then if we run one more time and we say A, B, Q, our program ends again because it found the Q. All right, so that's a use for the break statement. Let me see. Let's do this. Let's move our counter down now. Let's put it down here. And let's say if the input finds a letter E, do this correctly, and that does not equal, and again a little bit of magic about string, when it doesn't find something it returns and I should probably bring this into scope, but it returns this special thing end position. So this basically says, okay, as long as we don't find the letter E, as long as we do find the letter E, so it's not equal to this unfound character position, then what we're going to do is we're going to continue. And because this is before my counter, the counter will not increment and you won't see the output. Okay, so let's give that a try. Alright, so Fred has an E, no input. Let's say act, no E, so it works. George, no. So let's go B, C, D, E, nothing happens, F, G, and we get done because of our counter gets hit. So that's what continue does. Okay, and I guess finally we might as well use an exit. So we're just going to return exit 1 here. Not sure why Codan doesn't like this. Let's make sure it builds. Well, like I said, I never use exit, but it's saying that it's not declared or it's not in scope, and I believe that's because it's actually defined. It's probably not a keyword, it's actually a function, and it's defined in C standard lib. And let's see. Okay, so there it goes. So now it's going to call this function and exit if it finds an E. So if we run and if we type in Fred, we should immediately exit. Yeah, well, we should. I guess it did. Oh, yeah, because it jumps past everything, including our done statement. It just comes right down to the end, and we don't get any the value we return. We doesn't show up in the console window here. So that's exit, and you can see why I don't really use it or like it. Just sort of magically your program quits, and you have no evidence as to why. Okay, and just to be complete, let's use a goto. So let's say goto, and let's say we're going to go create a label called goodbye. And then let's jump down here, and let's actually go even after our return statement, just to give you a good idea what's going on here. We put goodbye down here, and we put a different message just so we know we hit it. Goodbye, and then really we should put another return here. And so now when we get an E, we'll do this goto to goodbye. It'll jump all the way down here and quit our program. Okay, so let's type Fred again. Yep, well, we're typing REDF, and goodbye gets hit. And that's the go-to, and those are all the jump statements.